Right now, you don't exist yet. Your mother is somewhere in the depths, carrying thousands of eggs inside her massive body. She's been searching for the perfect place to release them, and after weeks of swimming through the midnight zone, she finally finds it. The water temperature is just right, the currents are stable, and there are no immediate threats lurking nearby. She releases her eggs in a massive cloud, each one no bigger than a grain of rice. These tiny spheres drift through the water column, completely vulnerable to everything around them. Most won't survive the next few hours, but you're different. Your egg casing is thick enough to protect you, and the currents carry you to a spot where predators can't easily find you. Inside your translucent shell, you're developing at an incredible pace. Your tentacles form first, then your eyes, then your internal organs. You don't know it yet, but those eyes will become the largest of any animal on Earth. After several weeks of development, something triggers inside you. It's time to hatch. You push against the egg wall with your newly formed arms, tearing through the membrane that has protected you. The moment you break free, you're on your own. There's no parent waiting to feed you, no guidance, no protection. You're barely a centimeter long, transparent as glass, and everything in the ocean wants to eat you. Your first instinct isn't to hide or run, it's to hunt. You spot a tiny copepod drifting nearby, barely visible even to your sharp eyes. You don't think about strategy or technique, you just react. Your small tentacles shoot forward, faster than the copepod can escape. You pull it toward your beak and bite down. It's your first kill, and the warm protein floods your system with energy. You'll need it because this is just the beginning. For the next several months, you live as what scientists call a paralarva. You're not quite a larva, not quite a juvenile, but something in between. You drift with the currents in the upper layers of the ocean where sunlight still penetrates. It's dangerous here. Fish and jellyfish and even other squids see you as an easy meal, but it's also where the food is most abundant. You hunt constantly, growing at a rate that would seem impossible for most animals. Every week, you double in size. Your transparent body starts developing pigment cells called chromatophores. At first, you can only flash basic patterns, but as you grow, your color control becomes more sophisticated. You learn to camouflage yourself against the shifting patterns of sunlight filtering down from above. When a predator approaches, you become nearly invisible. When you're hunting, you pulse with hypnotic patterns that confuse your prey. Your tentacles are getting longer and more coordinated. What started as clumsy grabbing motions become precise strikes. You're learning to calculate distances, predict movement patterns, and strike with deadly accuracy. A small fish swims by, completely unaware of your presence. You wait until it's within range, then explode forward with your feeding tentacles. The fish doesn't even have time to react before your hooks sink into its flesh and drag it toward your waiting beak. But you're not the only one growing. The other survivors from your batch are developing just as quickly, and the ocean is getting more crowded. Food becomes harder to find as competition increases. Some of your siblings have grown larger than you, and you know what that means. In the world of Squid, size equals survival, and anything smaller is potential food. You've been both predator and prey since the moment you hatched, but now the stakes are getting higher. You encounter one of your larger siblings near a patch of drifting algae. It's maybe twice your size, with tentacles that could easily overpower you. You both freeze, assessing each other. Its chromatophores flash in rapid patterns, trying to intimidate you into backing down, but you're hungry and you're not willing to give up this hunting ground. You flash back, displaying your own warning colors. For a moment, neither of you moves. Then it strikes first. Its feeding tentacles shoot toward you with incredible speed, but you're ready. You jet backward, using your siphon to propel yourself out of range. The larger squid follows, its tentacles writhing as it tries to grab you. You twist and turn, using every bit of agility you've developed. Then you see your opening. As it overextends trying to reach you, you dart in from the side and grab one of its arms with your own tentacles. The fight is brutal and fast. You're smaller, but you're quicker. You manage to get your beak into position and bite down hard. Your sibling thrashes, trying to break free, but you hold on. Within minutes, it stops moving. You've just killed one of your own kind, and you feel no guilt about it. This is survival. You tear into the flesh, consuming everything you can. The protein will fuel another growth spurt, bringing you one step closer to becoming the apex predator you're destined to be. As months pass, you begin to change in ways beyond just size. Your body proportions shift as you transition from paralarva to juvenile. Your mantle becomes more elongated. Your tentacles grow longer relative to your body, and your eyes develop into the massive organs they're meant to become. You're still small by giant squid standards, maybe a foot long, but you're no longer the helpless creature that hatched from an egg. Your hunting techniques become more sophisticated. You learn to use jet propulsion, not just for escape, but for attack. You can shoot forward with explosive force, striking prey before they even know you're there. Your chromatophores have developed into a complex communication system. You can display hunting patterns, territorial warnings, and even basic emotions through rapid color changes across your skin. But the most important change is happening in your brain. Giant squids have one of the most complex nervous systems in the invertebrate world, and yours is developing rapidly. You're learning to solve problems, remember hunting grounds, and even plan attacks several moves in advance. When you encounter a school of fish, you don't just rush in anymore. You circle around, using your camouflage to stay hidden, then position yourself to cut off their escape routes before attacking. Food is becoming easier to find as you grow larger and more skilled, but so are the dangers. You're no longer small enough to hide from every predator, but you're not yet large enough to fight them off. Sperm whales patrol these waters, and they have a particular taste for squid. Their echolocation can find you even when you're perfectly camouflaged. When you hear those clicking sounds echoing through the water, you know it's time to dive deep and fast. Your first encounter with a sperm whale happens when you're about 2 feet long. You're hunting near the surface when the clicking sounds start. They're faint at first, but getting stronger. You immediately jet downward, using every bit of speed you can muster. The whale follows, its massive bulk cutting through the water with surprising grace. You dive deeper than you've ever gone before, into water so dark and cold that even your adapted body starts to struggle. The whale keeps coming. Its clicks are getting louder, which means it's getting closer. You're approaching your limits when you spot something that might save you. A deep-sea jellyfish drifts nearby, its translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. You position yourself directly behind it, using its bulk to break up the whale's sonar. The clicking continues for several more minutes, then gradually fades as the whale gives up and returns to the surface. You've survived your first encounter with your greatest natural enemy, but you know it won't be the last. Sperm whales and giant squids have been locked in an evolutionary arms race for millions of years. They hunt you, but as you grow larger, you'll be able to fight back. Those tentacles aren't just for catching fish. They're weapons capable of leaving permanent scars on even the largest whales. For now, though, you're still growing. You've reached the juvenile stage, and your body is changing rapidly. Your tentacles are getting longer and stronger, your beak is hardening, and your eyes are expanding. Those eyes will eventually be the size of dinner plates, capable of detecting the faintest traces of light in the absolute darkness of the deep ocean. They're already better than almost any other animals, able to spot prey or predators from incredible distances. Your hunting range is expanding as you grow more confident in your abilities. You venture into new territories, exploring the vast three-dimensional maze of the deep ocean. Each hunting ground has its own challenges and opportunities. Rocky outcrops provide hiding places, but also harbor dangerous predators. Open water offers more space to maneuver, but fewer places to hide. Thermal vents create unique ecosystems, with strange prey you've never encountered before. You're learning that the ocean has layers, each with its own rules and inhabitants. During the day, you stay in the deeper, darker waters, where your size gives you an advantage. At night, you rise toward the surface where smaller prey migrates upward to feed. This daily vertical migration is one of the largest movements of biomass on Earth, and you're becoming an increasingly important part of it. Your growth rate is starting to slow, but you're still adding length and mass at an impressive pace. You're now about 3 feet long, and your tentacles can stretch even further when fully extended. Other squid species in your size range start avoiding you, recognizing you as the apex predator you're becoming. But you're still not safe. The ocean is full of creatures that see you as a meal, and some of them are even larger than you'll ever be. Life as a giant squid is a constant balance between hunting and being hunted, between growing larger and staying hidden, between taking risks and playing it safe. Every decision you make could be your last, but every successful hunt brings you closer to reaching your full potential. You don't know it yet, but you're destined to become one of the most formidable predators in the ocean, a creature of legend that will inspire both fear and fascination in the minds of humans. But first, you have to survive long enough to reach maturity, and that journey is just beginning. You're 4 feet long now, and something fundamental is shifting inside you. The endless hunger that has driven every moment of your existence is being joined by new urges you don't understand yet. Your body is preparing for the next phase, but first you need to establish yourself in deeper waters. The surface layers that sheltered you as a juvenile are no longer safe. You're too big to hide effectively, and the competition for food is getting fierce. You begin your descent into what humans call the bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone where no sunlight ever penetrates. This is alien territory, a world of eternal darkness, broken only by the ghostly glow of bioluminescent creatures. The pressure here would crush most surface dwellers, but your body adapts easily. You were built for this environment, designed by millions of years of evolution to thrive where others cannot. The first thing you notice is how different the hunting is down here. Prey moves differently in the crushing darkness. They rely more on vibration and chemical signals than sight. You adjust your tactics accordingly, learning to feel the subtle water movements that indicate a fish swimming nearby. Your lateral line system, a network of pressure-sensitive cells running along your body, becomes as important as your massive eyes. You encounter your first deep-sea anglerfish in these depths. It hangs motionless in the water, its bioluminescent lure glowing like a tiny star in the darkness. The fish is maybe 2 feet long, covered in sharp teeth, and built for ambush hunting. Under normal circumstances, you might avoid something so well armed, but you're hungry and confident in your growing abilities. You approach from below, moving slowly to avoid creating vibrations. The anglerfish doesn't notice you until it's too late. Your feeding tentacles shoot out, wrapping around its body before it can react. It struggles violently, its massive jaws snapping at your arms, but your grip is too strong. You pull it toward your beak and bite down hard. The crunch of bone and cartilage echoes through your body as you tear into the flesh. But the deep ocean has taught you something important. Nothing here is helpless. As you're feeding, you notice movement in your peripheral vision. The anglerfish's death throes have attracted attention. A six-gill shark emerges from the darkness, its prehistoric form cutting through the water with deadly grace. It's twice your length and built like a living torpedo. You don't hesitate. You jet backward, abandoning your meal and putting distance between yourself and the shark. It moves to investigate the dead anglerfish, giving you time to escape. But you've learned a valuable lesson. In the deep ocean, every meal comes with risks. The smell of blood travels far in these waters, and there's always something bigger and more dangerous lurking nearby. Your territory is expanding as you grow more comfortable in the deep. You establish hunting grounds around underwater mountains and thermal vents, places where the geography creates unique opportunities. Near the vents, strange creatures thrive in the mineral-rich water. Tube worms cluster around the heat sources, their bodies providing food for fish you've never seen before. The ecosystem here operates on chemosynthesis rather than photosynthesis, creating a completely different food web. You're learning to read the ocean's moods and patterns. Currents shift with the seasons and tides, carrying different prey to different areas. You memorize these patterns, positioning yourself where the hunting will be best. Your brain, now highly developed, processes this information like a living computer. You're not just reacting anymore. You're predicting, planning, strategizing. A deep-sea octopus challenges you for territory near one of your favorite hunting spots. It's smaller than you, but incredibly intelligent, using tools and camouflage techniques you've never seen before. The confrontation starts as a display contest, both of you flashing warning colors and spreading your arms wide to appear larger. But when neither backs down, it escalates quickly. The octopus strikes first, its 8 arms reaching for you with surprising speed. But you have 10 appendages to its 8, and yours are longer. You grab several of its arms with your tentacles while using your other arms to grapple its body. The fight is a twisted ballet of writhing limbs, each of you trying to position your beak for a killing bite. The octopus is clever, using its flexibility to slip out of holds that would trap other creatures. But you're stronger and have better reach. You manage to get a tentacle around its head, cutting off its escape routes. Your beak finds its mark, and the fight ends abruptly. You've won your first territorial battle as a near adult, claiming this hunting ground as your own. Your growth is entering its final phase now. You're nearly 6 feet long, and your proportions are shifting toward your adult form. Your tentacles are becoming massive, each one capable of exerting crushing pressure. The suckers that line them have developed sharp, chitinous rings that can slice through flesh and bone. Your beak is hardening into a weapon capable of cutting through the toughest materials in the ocean. Most importantly, your eyes are reaching their full size. They're now larger than dinner plates, the biggest eyes in the animal kingdom. In the absolute darkness of the deep ocean, they can detect the faintest traces of bioluminescence from miles away. You can spot the glowing lure of an anglerfish, the flashing patterns of a fleeing fish, or the approaching lights of something much more dangerous. That danger reveals itself one night when you're hunting near an underwater canyon. The clicking sounds start soft and distant, but you recognize them immediately. Sperm whale, echolocation. But this time, you don't run. You're large enough now to consider fighting back, and something primal in your genetics tells you this encounter was always inevitable. The whale appears out of the darkness like a living mountain, its massive bulk dwarfing everything around it. It's at least 40 feet long, covered in scars from previous battles with others of your kind. Its clicking intensifies as it locks onto your position. You can feel the sound waves passing through your body, mapping your location with terrifying precision. You spread your tentacles wide, making yourself appear as large as possible. Your chromatophores flash in rapid, aggressive patterns. You're no longer the tiny paralarva that fled in terror from whale song. You're a giant squid, and you're ready to fight for your life. The whale approaches cautiously. It knows what you're capable of now. Those scars on its hide tell the story of previous battles with your kind, encounters where the whale won but paid a price. Its lower jaw drops open, revealing rows of massive teeth designed specifically for gripping squid flesh. You wait until the last possible moment before striking. Your feeding tentacles shoot forward with explosive force, wrapping around the whale's head and trying to find its eyes. The whale thrashes violently, its powerful tail driving it forward despite your grip. You hold on, your suckers digging deep into its flesh, your hooks drawing blood. The battle is titanic, a clash between two of the ocean's most formidable predators. The whale tries to bite down on your mantle, but you twist away using your jet propulsion to stay mobile. Your tentacles leave deep gouges in its hide as you fight for position. But the whale is relentless, using its size and power to drive you deeper into the canyon. You realize you can't win this fight through strength alone. You need to be smarter. As the whale makes another charge, you release a massive cloud of ink, filling the water with darkness, even deeper than the surrounding night. The whale's echolocation becomes confused by the dense cloud, giving you precious seconds to reposition. You strike from below, wrapping your tentacles around the whale's lower jaw and trying to prevent it from opening its mouth. If you can control its primary weapon, you might have a chance. But the whale is experienced in these battles. It rolls, using its massive bulk to try crushing you against the canyon wall. The impact drives the breath from your body, but you don't let go. Your survival depends on maintaining your grip. You shift your position, trying to reach the whale's eyes with your sharp beak. If you can blind it, the battle becomes much more even. But the whale has one final, desperate move. It dives straight down at maximum speed, carrying you with it toward the crushing depths of the abyssal zone. The pressure builds rapidly, testing the limits of even your deep-sea adaptations. You have to make a choice. Hold on and risk being crushed, or let go and lose your chance to win. You choose survival over victory, releasing your grip and jetting away into the darkness. The whale continues its dive, disappearing into the depths below. You've lost the battle, but you've survived, and that's what matters. The scars you've left on the whale will remind it that giant squids are not easy prey. You rise back to your preferred hunting depth, exhausted but alive. Your body bears new scars from the encounter, marks that will remain with you for the rest of your life. But you've learned something important. You're no longer afraid of sperm whales. You can fight them, hurt them, even if you can't always win. This realization marks your transition into true adulthood. You're now a mature giant squid, one of the ocean's apex predators. But your story is far from over. The deep ocean still holds mysteries and challenges you haven't encountered yet. There are territories to claim, rivals to face, and eventually the most important decision of your life, finding a mate and ensuring the continuation of your species. Your body is changing in ways that go beyond just size and strength. Deep inside your tissues, hormones are beginning to flow that you've never experienced before. You're 8 feet long now, your tentacles stretching even further when fully extended. But it's not your physical growth that's driving these changes. It's something deeper, something that every giant squid eventually faces. You're approaching sexual maturity, and with it comes an entirely new set of instincts and challenges. The first sign is a restlessness you can't explain. Your established hunting grounds no longer satisfy you the way they once did. You find yourself swimming vast distances for no apparent reason, following currents you've never explored before. Your chromatophore displays become more complex, flashing patterns that seem to come from somewhere beyond conscious thought. You're searching for something, though you don't yet understand what. Your appetite changes too. Where once you consumed everything you caught, now you're becoming selective. You need specific nutrients, particular proteins that will fuel the final stages of your development. Deep-sea fish, rich in certain oils, become irresistible, while prey you once relished now seems inadequate. Your body is preparing itself for the most important phase of your existence. The territorial battles become more intense as well. Other giant squids your age are going through the same changes, and competition for the best hunting grounds reaches new levels of ferocity. You encounter a rival near a thermal vent system, another mature squid whose scarred hide tells the story of countless battles. This isn't about food anymore. It's about dominance, about proving which of you has earned the right to these waters. The fight is unlike any you've experienced before. Your opponent is your equal in size and strength, its tentacles just as powerful as yours. When you clash, the water around you churns with the violence of your struggle. Neither of you holds back. Tentacles wrap around tentacles, beaks snap at exposed flesh, and the canyon walls echo with the sounds of your battle. You manage to get a grip around its mantle, your suckers digging deep into its flesh. But it responds by wrapping 2 tentacles around your head, trying to crush your skull. The pressure is enormous, and your vision starts to blur. You have seconds to act before you lose consciousness. You twist violently, using your jet propulsion to spin both of you in a disorienting spiral. The maneuver works. Your opponent's grip loosens just enough for you to break free and strike back. Your beak finds soft tissue between its tentacles, and you bite down hard. The taste of blood fills the water between you. Your rival releases its hold completely and jets backward, acknowledging defeat. You've won not just a battle, but established your dominance in these waters. But victory comes with a price. The wounds you've sustained are deep, and healing takes weeks. During this time, you're vulnerable to attack from other predators. A group of sleeper sharks discovers your weakened state and begins following you, waiting for the right moment to strike. These ancient predators are patient hunters, content to shadow you for days until exhaustion makes you an easy target. You know you can't outrun them in your current condition, so you do something that goes against every instinct you've developed. You hide. Finding a deep crevice in an underwater cliff face, you wedge yourself inside and remain motionless. Your chromatophores shift to match the rocky surface around you, making you nearly invisible even to your own eyes. The sharks circle the area for hours, their primitive brains struggling to understand where you've gone. Their sense of smell tells them you're nearby, but their eyes can't locate you. Eventually, they give up and move on to easier prey. You remain hidden for another full day, making sure they're truly gone before emerging. Your healing process teaches you something important about your own biology. Giant squids are remarkably resilient creatures, capable of recovering from injuries that would be fatal to most animals. Your tissues regenerate quickly, and within a few weeks, only faint scars remain as evidence of your battle. But more importantly, you've learned the value of strategic retreat. Sometimes survival requires swallowing your pride. As your wounds heal, the strange restlessness returns stronger than ever. You find yourself swimming toward areas of the ocean you've never explored, following deep currents that flow between continents. Your body is telling you it's time to find others of your kind, not for battle this time, but for something far more important. The journey takes you through underwater mountain ranges and across abyssal plains that stretch for hundreds of miles. You encounter creatures you've never seen before, bizarre fish adapted to the crushing depths, jellyfish the size of buildings, and bioluminescent displays that turn the darkness into an alien light show. But none of these distractions can shake the compulsion driving you forward. You're not the only one making this journey. As you travel, you begin encountering other giant squids, all moving in the same general direction. They ignore you for the most part, focused on their own mysterious mission. Some are larger than you, ancient specimens whose scars tell stories of decades in the deep. Others are smaller, younger squids, just reaching maturity like yourself. The gathering point reveals itself gradually. It's a seamount rising from the abyssal depths, its peak still thousands of feet below the surface. But something about this place calls to every instinct you possess. The water here is different, charged with chemicals and pheromones that speak directly to your developing reproductive system. You've found the spawning grounds. Dozens of giant squids circle the seamount in a complex dance that seems choreographed by evolution itself. Males and females, some the largest creatures you've ever seen, move through the water in patterns that must have been repeated for millions of years. You join the dance, your body responding to signals you don't consciously understand. But this isn't a peaceful gathering. Competition for mating rights is fierce, and the battles here make your previous territorial fights seem like gentle sparring matches. Males clash with a violence born of desperation, knowing that this may be their only chance to pass on their genes. The water around the seamount is clouded with ink and blood from countless confrontations. You watch and learn before joining the fray. The largest males dominate the best positions near the peak of the seamount, where the most receptive females gather. Smaller males are relegated to the outer edges, forced to wait for opportunities or risk everything in direct challenges to the dominant squids. Your first real test comes when you approach a mid-sized female displaying the complex color patterns that indicate her readiness to mate. But before you can get close, a massive male intercepts you. He's at least twice your mass, his tentacles thick as tree trunks and covered in scars from countless battles. His chromatophores flash aggressive patterns that leave no doubt about his intentions. You could retreat, find a smaller female on the outskirts of the gathering, but something in your genetic programming refuses to back down. This is your moment, your chance to prove yourself worthy of continuing your bloodline. You flash your own challenge patterns and spread your tentacles wide. The battle is brutal, even by giant squid standards. Your opponent's size advantage is overwhelming, but you have speed and desperation on your side. You dart between his grasping arms, striking where you can and retreating before he can retaliate. Your beak finds flesh repeatedly, leaving deep wounds that cloud the water with blood, but his experience shows. He anticipates your movements, using his massive bulk to corner you against the seamount's rocky face. His tentacles wrap around your arms, and for a moment you're completely trapped. His beak moves toward your head, ready to deliver a killing blow. In that instant of desperation, you do something that surprises even yourself. Instead of struggling against his grip, you go completely limp, playing dead. The sudden lack of resistance confuses your opponent just long enough for you to twist free and strike at his eyes with your sharp beak. The blow doesn't blind him, but it causes enough pain and confusion for you to escape his grasp. You jet backward, putting distance between yourself and the enraged giant. He follows, but his movements are less coordinated now, one eye streaming fluids that cloud his vision. The fight continues for what feels like hours, both of you weakening from blood loss and exhaustion. But gradually, your superior speed begins to tell. You land more strikes while avoiding his increasingly clumsy attacks. Finally, with a sound that might have been acceptance or defeat, he turns and swims away into the darkness. You've won the right to approach the female, but the battle has taken everything out of you. Your arms shake with exhaustion, and several of your tentacles bear deep wounds that will take weeks to heal. But none of that matters now. The female's pheromones are calling to you, triggering responses in your body that override pain and fatigue. The mating process itself is unlike anything you've experienced. It's not violent like your battles, but it's no less intense. Your body undergoes changes in real time, specialized organs activating for the first and only time in your life. You approach the female carefully, your chromatophores displaying submission and reproductive intent. She accepts your advance, and what follows is a complex ritual that seems to last forever and end too quickly at the same time. Your modified arm, specially adapted for reproduction, detaches from your body and transfers your genetic material to her. The sensation is indescribable, part pleasure, part pain, part completion of a biological imperative, millions of years in the making. When it's over, you drift away from the female, your body fundamentally changed by the experience. The arm you've lost will never regenerate, marking you permanently as a squid who has fulfilled his reproductive destiny. But more than that, something deeper has shifted inside you. The driving hunger that has motivated your entire existence is fading, replaced by a strange sense of completion mixed with growing emptiness. You linger near the spawning grounds for several more days, watching as other squids continue their ancient dance, but you're no longer truly part of it. Your role in the cycle of life has been fulfilled, and your body knows it. The wounds from your final battle aren't healing as quickly as they once would have. Your appetite is diminishing, and even when you do hunt, the food doesn't seem to provide the energy it once did. Other males who have completed the mating process drift through the area like ghosts of their former selves. Some bear the same missing arm that marks you as reproductively spent. Others show different signs of the toll that reproduction has taken on their bodies. None of them seem interested in the territorial battles and feeding frenzies that once defined their existence. You begin to understand something that no young squid could comprehend. This gathering at the seamount isn't just about creating the next generation, it's about the end of the current one. For giant squids, reproduction is a one-way journey. The energy required to reach sexual maturity, fight for mating rights, and successfully transfer genetic material takes everything the body has to give. The realization doesn't bring despair, though. Instead, there's a strange peace in knowing that your genes are now part of something larger than yourself. Somewhere in the depths, the female you mated with is carrying eggs that contain half your genetic code. Those eggs will develop into a new generation of giant squids, carrying forward the adaptations and instincts that allowed you to survive in the harshest environment on Earth. You leave the spawning grounds behind and begin swimming back toward your old hunting territories. But the journey feels different now. Your movements are slower, less purposeful. The currents that once carried you swiftly through the water now seem to work against you. Your body is beginning the slow process of shutting down, conserving what little energy remains for the final phase of your existence. The deep ocean, which once seemed full of threats and opportunities, now feels almost welcoming. You pass through areas where you once fought epic battles, where you established your dominance over rival predators. Now those same locations seem like monuments to a life lived at the very edge of possibility. Your eyesight, once sharp enough to spot prey from incredible distances, begins to dim. Your tentacles, which could once crush the life from any creature they grasped, grow weaker with each passing day. Even your chromatophores, the color-changing cells that allowed you to communicate and camouflage, start to lose their vibrancy. But you're not suffering. This is simply the way of your species, the price paid for a life lived with such intensity that few creatures could match it. You've grown from a transparent speck, barely visible to the naked eye, into one of the ocean's most formidable predators. You've battled sperm whales, dominated your territory, and passed on your genes to the next generation. As your strength continues to fade, you find yourself sinking slowly toward the abyssal depths. The pressure here would have crushed you as a juvenile, but now it feels almost comforting. Your massive eyes, those dinner plate-sized organs that served you so well throughout your life, catch one final glimpse of the strange beauty of the deep ocean, bioluminescent creatures painting patterns in the darkness like living stars. Your story as an individual giant squid is ending, but the story of your species continues. Somewhere above you, your offspring are developing in their protective egg cases, preparing for their own journey from helpless larvae to apex predators. The cycle that began with your mother's desperate search for the perfect spawning site millions of seconds ago is beginning anew. Life as a giant squid might be intense and brief, but there's another creature out there that faces challenges that make your existence look peaceful by comparison. You sink deeper into the abyss, but death doesn't come quickly for a giant squid. Your body drifts through layers of water so deep that the pressure would implode a submarine, yet you're still conscious, still aware. Your massive form descends like a falling cathedral, past creatures that exist in perpetual darkness, past thermal vents that have been spewing minerals since before your species evolved. Other giants have made this same journey before you. The ocean floor is littered with the remains of your kind, their beaks the only parts that don't decompose in these crushing depths. Those black, curved structures will remain here for centuries, the only evidence that you ever existed. But right now, you're not thinking about legacy or meaning. You're experiencing something that few creatures ever witness, your own slow transition from apex predator to ocean sediment. A deep-sea scavenger finds you first. It's something ancient and primitive, with eyes like black marbles and a mouth full of needle teeth. Under normal circumstances, this creature wouldn't dare approach a living giant squid, but it can sense your weakness, smell the chemicals your dying body is releasing into the water. It takes an experimental bite from one of your trailing tentacles. You feel it, but you can't summon the energy to care anymore. More scavengers arrive as word spreads through the deep-sea ecosystem. They're not being cruel, they're just following the same survival instincts that drove your entire existence. Nothing goes to waste in the abyss. Your massive body represents months of food for creatures that might otherwise starve. In a way, you're still providing for the ecosystem that shaped you, still playing your part in the endless cycle of predator and prey. But something interrupts this feeding frenzy. A disturbance in the water, a sound you haven't heard in months. Whale song, not the aggressive clicking of sperm whale echolocation, but something deeper, more mournful. A blue whale passes overhead, its massive bulk blocking out what little light filters down from the distant surface. For a moment, you wonder if it can see you down here, if it recognizes what you once were. The whale continues on its migration, following routes older than continents. You watch its shadow disappear into the darkness, and something about its passage stirs memories you thought were fading. You remember your first successful hunt, the taste of victory when you defeated your rival at the spawning grounds, the electric moment when your genetic material joined with that of your mate. These weren't just random events, they were part of something larger, something that connected you to every giant squid that ever lived. Your consciousness begins to fragment as your nervous system shuts down. But in these final moments, you experience something remarkable. Your chromatophores, those color-changing cells that served you throughout your life, fire one last time in patterns you've never displayed before. Waves of color ripple across your dying body. Deep purples, brilliant blues, flashes of silver that catch what little light exists at these depths. It's not a conscious display. Your nervous system is firing randomly as it fails, but the effect is beautiful in its chaos. The scavengers that were feeding on your extremities pause, seemingly mesmerized by the light show playing across your skin. For a few precious minutes, you become a beacon in the darkness, a celebration of bioluminescence that illuminates creatures that have never seen such radiance. Then the lights fade, and you fade with them. Your massive eyes, those incredible organs that could spot prey from miles away, close for the final time. Your tentacles, which once moved with deadly precision, settle into the sediment of the ocean floor. The current shifts your body slightly, arranging your arms in a pattern that almost looks peaceful. But death isn't the end of your story. Your body will feed the deep-sea ecosystem for months to come. Bacteria will break down your tissues, releasing nutrients that will eventually find their way up the food chain. Fish will feed on your remains, growing strong enough to reproduce and pass on their own genetic material. The carbon in your body will become part of other creatures, other stories, other lives. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, the female you mated with has found her own spawning site. She's carrying hundreds of eggs, each one containing genetic material from both of you. The process is taking everything she has, just as reproduction took everything from you. She won't survive to see her offspring hatch, but that was never the point. The point was to give them the best possible chance at life. She releases the eggs in a massive cloud, just as your mother did years ago. Most won't survive. That's the harsh mathematics of life in the ocean. But some will. Some will develop into larvae, grow into juveniles, face the same challenges you faced, make the same desperate choices, fight the same battles. They'll carry forward not just your DNA, but the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of evolution. One of those eggs contains a combination of genes that will produce something special, not obviously different from its siblings, but carrying genetic variations that will make it slightly faster, slightly smarter, slightly more adaptable. This larva will face the same predators you faced, but it will react a split second quicker. When it encounters its first sperm whale, it will dive deeper and hide more effectively. When it battles for territory, it will choose its fights more wisely. These small advantages will compound over time. This descendant will live longer than you did, grow larger, dominate a bigger territory. It will pass on its enhanced genetics to an even more successful generation. This is how species evolve, how they adapt to changing conditions, how they survive in a world that's constantly trying to kill them. But evolution works both ways. The sperm whales that hunt giant squids are also evolving, becoming better at detecting your kind's camouflage, more efficient at killing in the deep-sea battles that have raged for millions of years. It's an arms race with no finish line, each species pushing the other toward greater extremes of size, intelligence, and lethality. Your own life was just one move in this cosmic chess game. You grew larger than your parents, developed better hunting strategies, survived encounters that killed your siblings. The genetic improvements you carried forward made your species a little bit better at the game of survival. Now those improvements are passed on again, refined and enhanced by the mixing of genetic material that happened at the spawning grounds. The ocean continues its ancient rhythms above your resting place. Tides rise and fall, currents shift with the seasons, and new generations of creatures are born, live, fight, and die. Your beak, that last remnant of your physical existence, settles into the sediment where it will remain for centuries. Future researchers might find it someday, measure it, and calculate how large you were, how old you lived to be. But they'll never know the full story of your existence. They won't know about the desperate fight for survival in your first hours of life, the complex strategies you developed for hunting in the darkness, the epic battles that left scars on sperm whales still swimming in distant oceans. They won't understand the strange beauty of your final display of bioluminescence, or the way your death fed an entire ecosystem. That knowledge lives only in the genetic memory of your species, encoded in the DNA of creatures who will face similar challenges in years to come. Each generation builds on the lessons learned by those who came before, developing new adaptations, new survival strategies, new ways of thriving in the harshest environment on Earth. The deep ocean keeps its secrets well. Humans have explored less than 5% of your world, and what they have seen barely scratches the surface of its complexity. They know that giant squids exist. They've even captured a few on camera, but they have no real understanding of what your life was like. They can't comprehend the intelligence required to hunt successfully in three-dimensional darkness, or the physical demands of growing from a microscopic larva to a creature the size of a school bus. To them, you're a monster from legends, a creature of myth and nightmare. They tell stories about giant squids dragging ships to the bottom of the ocean, though no giant squid has ever attacked a vessel. The truth of your existence, the desperate struggle for survival, the complex social behaviors, the brief but intense period of reproduction, is far more remarkable than any human fiction. Your species will outlive the humans who study you. Giant squids have survived ice ages, mass extinctions, and changes in ocean chemistry that wiped out countless other species. You're perfectly adapted for life in the deep ocean, a niche that will exist as long as there are oceans on Earth. The genetic legacy you've left behind will face new challenges, encounter new predators, adapt to changing conditions you can't imagine. But the fundamental struggle will remain the same. Every giant squid that hatches from an egg will face the same basic challenge you faced: survive long enough to reproduce. Some will fail in their first hours, becoming food for creatures barely larger than themselves. Others will grow to impressive size, only to fall victim to sperm whales or other predators. A lucky few will make it to the spawning grounds, fight for the right to mate, and pass on their genetic material to the next generation. This cycle has been repeating itself for millions of years, and it will continue for millions more, each generation slightly different from the last, each individual fighting the same eternal battle against a world that's trying to kill them. Your life was just one iteration of this ancient pattern, but it was also unique. No other giant squid will ever follow exactly the same path you took through the darkness of the deep ocean. The current shifts your remains one final time, settling you into a position where you'll rest for decades to come. Above you, the ocean teems with life you helped sustain. Below you, the Earth's crust continues its slow dance of creation and destruction. You've become part of something larger than yourself, your atoms destined to cycle through countless other forms of life before the sun finally burns out and the oceans freeze. But that's a story for another day, a tale of cosmic timescales that dwarf even the impressive lifespan of your species. For now, your individual story has ended where it began, in the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, surrounded by creatures perfectly adapted for a world that would kill most other forms of life in seconds. Life as a giant squid was intense, brutal, and beautiful in ways that surface dwellers can never fully understand. But there's another creature out there that faces challenges that make your existence seem almost peaceful by comparison. Your death becomes a celebration for the deep-sea community, though you're no longer around to witness it. Hagfish arrive first, sliding through the water like living slime. They burrow directly into your flesh, eating you from the inside out, while secreting clouds of mucus that would choke most other creatures. It's disgusting by surface standards, but down here, it's just another day at the office. A giant isopod scuttles across the ocean floor toward your remains. It looks like a pill bug that hit the gym for a few million years, armored and determined. These things can go years without eating, so your body represents a jackpot beyond their wildest dreams. It tears off chunks of flesh with mechanical precision, storing as much as possible for the lean times ahead. Deep-sea amphipods swarm your carcass like underwater locusts. They're small individually, but collectively they can strip meat from bone faster than any surface scavenger. They work in shifts, some feeding while others stand guard against larger competitors. It's organized chaos, a feeding frenzy with rules that have been refined over millions of years. But the real cleanup crew arrives later. Bacteria that thrive in these crushing depths begin breaking down your tissues at the molecular level. They work slowly but thoroughly, recycling every atom of your body back into the ecosystem. Your carbon becomes part of the ocean's chemistry. Your nitrogen feeds microscopic organisms. Your phosphorus strengthens the shells of creatures you never encountered. A sleeper shark eventually finds what's left of you. These ancient predators move like living fossils, slow but relentless. It tears off massive chunks of your remaining flesh, swallowing pieces that would choke most other animals. The shark's metabolism is so slow that this single meal will sustain it for months. Your death has become its life insurance policy. Miles away, your genetic legacy is already taking shape. The eggs you helped create are developing in their protective casings, each one a tiny universe of potential. Some contain genetic combinations that will produce failures, larvae too slow to catch prey, juveniles too weak to fight off predators. But others carry improvements, random mutations that might give them an edge in the brutal competition ahead. One egg in particular carries something special. A slight variation in the genes controlling chromatophore development will give this future squid the ability to create color patterns no giant squid has ever displayed before. It won't seem important at first, but when this larva encounters its first major predator, those unique patterns will confuse the hunter just long enough for an escape. Another egg contains genes that will produce slightly more efficient oxygen processing systems. The squid that develops from this egg will be able to dive deeper and stay down longer than its competitors. In the crushing depths, where most creatures struggle to extract enough oxygen from the water, this advantage will be the difference between life and death. These aren't conscious improvements. Evolution doesn't plan ahead or design solutions to problems. It just throws random variations at the wall and sees what sticks. Most mutations are neutral or harmful, but occasionally one provides a survival advantage. Over time, these beneficial changes accumulate, slowly transforming species into better versions of themselves. Your own life was the product of millions of years of this process. The eyes that served you so well were originally simple light-detecting patches on some ancient ancestor. The tentacles that made you a formidable predator evolved from basic grasping appendages. Your intelligence, your hunting strategies, your ability to survive in the crushing depths, all of these traits were refined over countless generations. But evolution is also an arms race, and your prey species weren't sitting idle while giant squids got better at hunting them. Deep-sea fish developed better camouflage, faster escape reflexes, and more effective defensive strategies. Some evolved bioluminescent lures to attract prey while hating their own bodies in darkness. Others developed armor-like scales that could resist your powerful beak. Even the bacteria that are currently decomposing your remains are part of this evolutionary dance. They've developed specialized enzymes for breaking down squid tissue, chemical weapons that can dissolve your tough hide. In response, living squids have evolved immune systems and healing abilities that can fight off most bacterial infections. It's a microscopic war that's been raging for millions of years. The ocean floor where you're resting has seen this cycle countless times before. Layers of sediment contain the remains of creatures that lived and died here over geological timescales. Giant squids, ancient fish, primitive arthropods, all of them played their part in the grand experiment of life, then returned to the elements that created them. Your beak settles deeper into the sediment, joining a graveyard of similar structures from squids who made the same journey over the past few thousand years. Each beak tells a story. Some show the wear patterns of successful hunters, others bear the scars of epic battles with sperm whales. Yours carries its own unique marks, evidence of the particular challenges you faced and overcame. A deep-sea octopus investigates your beak with careful tentacles. It's not looking for food. Your beak is too tough to eat, but rather satisfying the curiosity that makes octopuses such successful survivors. It turns the structure over, examining it from different giant squid anatomy that angles, perhaps learning something about, will help it avoid future encounters with your kind. The octopus moves on, carrying that knowledge with it into whatever challenges await in the darkness ahead. This is how information spreads through the deep-sea ecosystem, not through teaching or communication, but through direct experience and instinctive learning passed down through generations. Meanwhile, the spawning site where your mate released her eggs has become a nursery for the next generation. The water here is rich with nutrients, fed by deep currents that carry minerals up from the ocean floor. It's the perfect environment for developing squid embryos, protected from most predators by the crushing depth and eternal darkness. Inside each egg, complex chemical processes are creating the building blocks of life. Proteins fold into precise shapes, DNA replicates with remarkable accuracy, and cells divide according to patterns that's established billions of years ago. Each embryo is following the same basic blueprint that created you, but with subtle variations that will make them unique individuals. Some eggs won't make it. The deep ocean is harsh even for creatures specifically adapted to it, and developing embryos are particularly vulnerable. Temperature fluctuations, chemical changes in the water, or simple random accidents can destroy weeks of development in seconds. This is why your mate produced hundreds of eggs, the ocean's version of buying lottery tickets in bulk. But the survivors will be tough. Only the strongest, smartest, and luckiest embryos will complete their development and hatch into the hostile world outside their protective shells. These larvae will carry forward the genetic improvements accumulated over millions of years, plus whatever new advantages random mutation has provided. One larva in particular seems destined for something special. Its development is proceeding faster than its siblings, its nervous system forming connections that will give it superior reflexes. When it hatches, it will be slightly at avoiding the countless predators that see quicker than the others, slightly better larval squids as easy meals. This speed advantage will compound over time. The larva will catch more prey, grow faster, and reach safety more often than its slower siblings. It will survive encounters that kill others, accumulate more experience, and eventually grow into a formidable adult. Its superior genetics will be passed on to the next generation, continuing the slow but relentless march of evolutionary improvement. But survival isn't just about individual advantages. The deep-sea ecosystem is interconnected in ways that surface dwellers can barely comprehend. Your death has triggered a cascade of changes that will ripple through the food web for months to come. The energy stored in your massive body is being redistributed to hundreds of other creatures, each of which will use that energy to grow, reproduce, or simply survive another day. A deep sea jellyfish drifts past your remains, its translucent body POP here for your flesh, jalousing with bioluminescent patterns. Its knotly fish have different dietary requirements, but it's feeding on the bacteria that are breaking down your tissues. These microorganisms have multiplied rapidly in response to the sudden abundance of organic matter, creating a temporary boom in the local ecosystem. The jellyfish isn't alone. Countless microscopic organisms are taking advantage of the nutrients your death has provided. They multiply, creating more food for slightly larger creatures, which in turn support bigger predators, and so on up the food chain. Your death has become a temporary oasis of abundance in an environment where food is usually scarce. This is the true cycle of life in the deep ocean. Nothing is wasted, nothing is meaningless, and death is just another form of energy transfer. The atoms that once made up your powerful tentacles will become part of other creatures, other stories, other battles for survival. You've become immortal in the only way that really matters, by becoming part of the endless dance of creation and destruction that drives all life on Earth. Your story as an individual giant squid has ended, but your influence on the ecosystem will continue for decades. Their way up through the food chain, eventually the nutrients from your body will work reaching the surface waters where they'll feed phytoplankton. Those nutrients will even make it onto land, carried by SE microscopic plants will use your atoms to photosynthesize, converting sunlight into energy that supports the birds that dive for fish near the entire ocean ecosystem. Some of those the surface. Your carbon might end up in a tree, your nitrogen in a blade of grass, your phosphorus in the bones of some land animal you could never have imagined. The circle of life extends far beyond Thed, but perhaps most on will continue evolving long after your physical boundaries of your deep-sea whirl. Importantly, the genetic information you pass giant squids, faster eggs developing in the darkness above, remains have been completely recycled. Those carry instructions for building better, stronger, smarter versions, even more successful in the eternal of your species that will be struggle for survival. The deep ocean keeps its secrets, but it also keeps its promises. Every creature that lives and dies here contributes to something larger than itself. Your life in the grand experiment of evolution, helping year wasn't just about survival and reproduction. It was about participating species adapt and improve over time. You played your part in a story, stirring the sediment around your after the sun burns out. The current shifts again that began billions of years ago and will continue long remains. In a few more years, you snow and decomposed organic matter. Future will be completely buried, hidden beneath layers of marine generations of giant squids will swim above your resting place, unaware that one of their ancestors lies beneath them. But they'll carry your genetic legacy with them, a living testament to your success in the harshest environment on Earth. Life as a giant squid was brief but intense, a concentrated burst of survival into just a few years of existence. But there's another creature out there, growth is battle and reproduction compress, that faces challenges so extreme they make your deep-sea struggles look like a peaceful vacation. Trust me, their story will make you grateful you got to live as one of the ocean's most successful predators. The eggs your mate released are developing in ways that would seem impossible to surface dwellers. Each embryo grows in complete darkness, nourished by yolk reserves that contain everything needed to build a future predator. Inside these protective shells, microscopic construction projects unfold with precision that would make human engineers weep with envy. Nervous systems wire themselves according to blueprints millions of years in the making, while specialized organs form that exist nowhere else in the animal kingdom. Temperature matters more than you might expect at these depths. A difference of just a few degrees can determine whether an embryo develops normally or dies before hatching. The deep currents carry water of different temperatures from distant parts of the ocean, creating invisible boundaries that can spell life or death for developing squids. Your mate chose her spawning site carefully, following instincts inherited from countless generations of successful mothers. But even perfect survival, predators patrol these conditions can't guarantee waters constantly, drawn by chemical signals that developing eggs can't help but release. Deep-sea fish with mouths full of needle teeth cruise through the spawning areas like wolves through a sheep pasture. They can't crack the toughest egg cases, but they don't need to. Plenty of embryos develop in shells too thin to provide adequate protection. A primitive shark discovers the spawning site 3 weeks after your mate you battled during your lifetime, but it's perfectly death. It's smaller than the giant skewer shells and suck out the developing contents. Hide at day like tiny spoons, designed to punct dozens with each sweep of its head, adapted for eating eggs, since teeth are shape. Most of the embryos don't even work methodically through the cloud of eggs, destroying one moment and cease to exist the next. Their potential know they're being eaten. Their nervous systems aren't developed enough to process pain or fear. They simply exist futures, snuffed out before they ever had a chance to experience the ocean's challenges. This is the brutal mathematics of reproduction in the deep sea. Produce thousands of offspring, knowing that only a handful will survive. Slightly better locations, hidden in crevices but survival isn't entirely random. Some eggs were released in the currents, provide better oxygenation, giving predators can't easily reach them. Others were deposited in areas where the developing embryos a crucial advantage. Your mate's experience as a successful predator guided her choices, even frenzy entirely. A cluster of eggs escaped the shark's feeding in death, giving her offspring the best possible start. One are wedged deep in a kraken. The embryos inside are developing faster the seafloor, protected by geography and luck than their siblings, driven by genetic combinations that produce more efficient metabolisms. These aren't conscious improvements better in this particular environment. Inside the most, just random variations that happen to work promising egg, a future giant squid is taking shape. Its tentacles are forming with unusual precision, guided by genes that produce stronger muscle fibers and more sensitive nerve endings. Its eyes are developing with enhanced light-gathering capabilities, mutations that will allow it to see deeper into the darkness than any of its ancestors. These advantages are microscopic now, but they'll compound over a lifetime of hunting and survival. The embryo's chromatophore system is particularly advanced. Instead of the standard array of color-changing cells, it's developing clusters that can produce patterns no giant squid has ever displayed. These patterns will serve multiple purposes: better camouflage, more effective communication, and hunting displays that will confuse prey in ways evolution hasn't tried before of years in the making. Development. It's a genetic experiment millions accelerates as the embryo approaches the critical hatching phase. Digestive systems come online, ready to process the first meals of independent life. Jet propulsion organs develop the power needed for rapid escapes. Most importantly, the hunting instincts begin forming in the developing brain, neural pathways that will guide feeding. The hatching process itself is behaviors without any need for learning or practice a miracle of biological engineering. The embryo must break free from its protective shell at exactly the right moment. Too early, and it won't be fully developed. Too late, and it will exhaust its yolk reserves before gaining freedom. Chemical signals in the surrounding water provide the trigger, telling each embryo when conditions are optimal for emergence. Your genetic descendant responds to these signals first, its advanced development allowing it to hatch hours before its siblings. It pushes against the egg wall with tentacles that are already stronger than average, tearing through the membrane with surprising efficiency. The moment it breaks free, it's completely independent. No parent to guide it, no safety net to catch it if it fails. The newly hatched larva is transparent as glass, barely visible even to predators actively hunting for such prey. Its first instinct is to rise toward the surface layers where food is more abundant, but it moves cautiously, already displaying the paranoia that will keep it alive. Every shadow could be a predator, every movement danger. It's in the water could signal comes within first hunt hatching. A cop hours of aware that it's being stalked by something, Epod drifts past. Unedible predators? The larva dozens that will eventually grow into one of the ocean's most formitate. Its hunting instincts are already fully formed, hardwired into its nervous system. Biacles shoot forward with precision that would have millions of years of evolution. Its tiny tent-press adult squids, grasping the copepod before eke, though microscopic, is perfectly designed for punct and efficient. The larva's bee it can escape. The kill is clean feeds quickly, converting the prey shearing the copepod's shell. It proteins into the energy needed for rapid growth. This is the beginning of a feeding frenzy that will continue for months, each successful hunt bringing it closer to the size where it can defend itself against larger predators. But size brings its own problems. As the larva grows, it becomes visible to creatures that ignored it when it was transparent. Fish that once seemed like harmless neighbors now eye it with predatory interest. The balance of power in its immediate environment shifts constantly. Its advanced genetics begin as it transitions from invisible prey to noticeable target line, allow it to dodge attacks that would reflexes inherited from your blue, showing their value during this vulnerable period. The enhanced kill slower larvae. Its improved eyesight spots predators approaching from greater distances, providing crucial extra seconds for chromatophore control lets escape maneuvers. Most importantly, its superior it blend into backgrounds more effectively than any of its competitors. The larva's first major test comes when a juvenile fish decides it looks tasty enough to pursue. The fish is maybe 10 times larger and infinitely more circumstances. This would be a death sentence for experienced in these hunting grounds. Under normal, any larva caught in open water. But your descendant isn't normal. It's carrying genetic improvements that have been accumulating for generations. Instead of fleeing in panic, the larva does something unprecedented. It stops moving entirely, allowing its chromatophores to match the surrounding water so perfectly that it becomes nearly invisible. Then it slowly rotates until it's facing the approaching fish head-on, minimizing its profile. The fish's eyes sweep past it repeatedly, unable to lock onto a target that's hiding in plain sight. The predator eventually gives up and swims away, confused by its inability to relocate what should have been an easy meal. Your descendant has survived its first major encounter through a combination of inherited advantages and instinctive cunning. It's a small victory, but this larva will face countless more challenges as it grows toward adulthood. It will battle siblings the deep ocean. Small victories accumulate into evolutionary success stories, escape from predators, and develop the hunting skills needed to become an apex predator. Some encounters will be won through genetic advantages, others through learning and experience. But each survival will be built on the foundation your life provided, genes tested through your own struggles, and the developing larva teams with similar refined by your success in passing them on. The ocean around stories. Other eggs from your mate's spawn are hatching now, each larva carrying slightly different combinations of genetic material. Some will fail quickly, lacking the advantages needed for survival in such a hostile environment. Others will thrive for weeks or months before encountering challenges they can't overcome. But a few, perhaps only 3 or 4 from the original hundreds of eggs, will survive to adulthood. Those successful individuals will carry forward the genetic improvements that made survival possible, mixing them with material from other successful bloodlines to create the next generation. This is how species evolve, through the slow accumulation of beneficial changes tested in the crucible of survival. Your descendant continues growing at a remarkable pace, doubling in size every few days. Its tentacles are becoming more coordinated, its hunting patterns more sophisticated. The genetic advantages that kept it alive as a vulnerable larva are now helping it excel as a juvenile predator. It's beginning to show the potential that will eventually make it a dominant force in its ecosystem. The deep ocean watches impassively as this drama unfolds. Currents shift, temperatures fluctuate, and the endless dance of predator and prey continues as it has for millions of years. Your genetic legacy swims through this ancient theater, carrying forward the accumulated wisdom of countless generations while adding its own unique variations to the mix. But evolution is a slow process, and individual success stories are just small steps in a much larger journey. Your descendant may survive to reproduce, but its offspring will face new challenges, encounter different predators, and need additional adaptations to thrive. The ocean never stops testing the creatures that live in it, constantly raising the bar for what counts as evolutionary success. The spawning site where your mate released her eggs is already returning to normal. Scavengers have cleaned up the remains of failed embryos. Currents have dispersed the chemical signals that attracted predators, and the area looks much as it did before your species chose it for reproduction. Only the scattered survivors swimming through the water column provide evidence of the reproductive drama that played out here. These survivors are now dispersing across vast areas of ocean, carried by currents toward territories they've never seen. Some will find rich hunting grounds where they can grow rapidly. Others will struggle in areas where prey is scarce and competition is fierce. The ocean doesn't play favorites. Success depends entirely on the combination of genetics, skill, and luck that each individual brings to the survival game. Your descendant rides a favorable current toward a region rich in deep-sea life. The water here carries nutrients from thermal vents, supporting ecosystems unlike anything found in other parts of the ocean. Strange fish with bioluminescent lures patrol the darkness, while armored crustaceans scuttle across the seafloor below. It's a dangerous but abundant hunting ground, exactly the kind of environment where superior genetics can provide decisive advantages. The first encounter with this new ecosystem comes quickly. A deep-sea anglerfish hangs motionless in the water, its glowing lure attracting smaller prey. Your descendant has never seen anything like it, but its enhanced pattern recognition systems immediately classify it as a potential threat. Instead of approaching the mysterious light, like many naive juveniles would, it gives the anglerfish a wide berth and continues exploring. This cautious approach pays dividends when it spots the anglerfish's true prey, small fish drawn to the bioluminescent lure like moths to a flame. Your descendant positions itself carefully, using the anglerfish's own hunting strategy against it. When the smaller fish venture close to investigate the lure, they pass directly through your descendant's ambush zone. The attack is perfectly executed faster than the prey can react. Enhanced reflexes allow your descendant to strike, while improved coordination ensures that none escape the grasp of its tentacles. It feeds efficiently, consuming everything it catches and converting the protein into rapid growth. This hunting strategy, using other predators' activities to locate prey, demonstrates Squid's legendary. But intelligence comes with costs. The larger the kind of intelligence that will eventually make giant brain required for complex problem-solving needs, more energy too. Your descendant must catch more prey than maintain, energy that must come from successful hunting, its simpler relatives, just to fuel its enhanced cognitive abilities. It's an evolutionary gamble. Superior intelligence only pays off if it leads what appears to be working. Your descendant is to significantly better hunting success. The GOM growing faster than any of its siblings, its enhanced abilities translating directly into survival advantages. It's learning to read the deep-sea environment like a living map, recognizing the subtle thermal gradients, current patterns, and chemical traces cues that indicate where prey might be found, all provide information that less capable squids would miss entirely. A school of deep-sea fish provides the next major hunting opportunity. They're moving in tight formation, probably fleeing from some larger predator. Your descendant doesn't waste time trying to identify the threat. It focuses on the opportunity. The fleeing fish are panicked and disorganized, making them easier targets than they would normally be. But catching fast-moving prey in three-dimensional space requires more than just speed and tentacles. Your descendant must calculate intercept courses, predict evasion patterns. System handles these computations effortlessly, processing and coordinate multiple appendages simultaneously. It's enhanced nervous information and issuing commands faster than conscious thought. The attack unfolds like a choreographed ballet of destruction. Your descendant positions itself in the school's path, then explodes into action when the fish arrive. Multiple tentacles strike simultaneously, each one guided by split-second calculations that account for the target's speed and direction. Within seconds, it has captured more prey than it can immediately consume. This abundance creates a new problem: how to handle more food than can be eaten right away. Your descendants' ancestors avoid predators while digesting their overs would have gorged themselves and hoped to systems can preserve energy for leaner times, the solutionized meals. But your genetic legacy includes innovations that provide faster processing of consumed prey while improved nutrient storage better options. Enhanced digestive efficiency allows for demonstrates the kind of adaptive thinking that separates successful predators from mere survivors. Your descendant consumes what it can immediately process, then caches the remainder in a secure location for later retrieval. This behavior requires memory, planning, and spatial reasoning, cognitive abilities that most predators never develop. But the deep ocean doesn't reward innovation without extracting a price. The cache attracts scavengers who can smell its investment or lose the benefits of its the stored food from considerable distances. Your descendant must deafen hunt. The first challenger arrives within hours, another juvenile squid, slightly smaller but desperate enough to fight for food. The battle tests every advantage your bloodline has accumulated over generations of evolution. Superior reflexes help your descendant avoid the challenger's initial strikes, while enhanced strength allows it to overpower its opponent once the fight moves to close quarters. Most importantly, the improved problem-solving abilities inherited from your lineage help it recognize and exploit the other squid's weaknesses. Victory comes through a combination of genetics and tactics. Your descendant uses its superior reach to stay outside its opponent's striking range while landing repeated hits with its longest tentacles. The challenger, already weakened by hunger, can't sustain the energy expenditure required for extended combat. It retreats, leaving your descendant in possession of both the cached food and expanded territory. This victory has now learned the patterns and rhythms of its domain consequences beyond the immediate reward of extra nutrition. Word spreads through the local ecosystem that this particular area is defended by a formidable predator. Other potential look for easier targets elsewhere. Your challengers reassess the risk-to-reward ratio and decide to different times. Where predators are most likely descendant has effectively established its first territory through in search of prey, your descendant can. It begins to understand which areas produce the best hunting, and ownership changes everything. Instead of constantly moving a combination of successful hunting and successful defense, territory to appear, and how to use the local geography for tactical advantages. The enhanced management. Your descendant doesn't just react. Intelligence inherited from your bloodline proves invaluable for this territorial to opportunities and threats. It anticipates them. When thermal conditions indicate that certain prey species will migrate through its territory, it positions itself along their expected route hours in advance. When predator activity increases in nearby areas, it adjusts its own hunting patterns to avoid dangerous encounters. This represents a quantum leap in evolutionary strategy. Most active approach to survival stimuli and relying on reflex predators are reactive, responding to immediate tease to navigate challenges. But your genetic legacy has behavior based on predicted future conditions. The advantages compound over time. Better produce something more sophisticated, a predator that can think several moves ahead, plan for contingencies, and adapt its territorial management leads to more successful hunts, which provide the energy needed for faster growth and enhanced cognitive development. Your descendant is entering a positive feedback loop where success breeds more success, each victory making the next one more likely. But the ocean has ways of testing even the most successful predators, and your descendants' growing dominance hasn't gone unnoticed by larger creatures. Something is hunting in the area now, something big enough to consider juvenile giant squids as potential prey. The water carries chemical traces of a predator your descendant has never encountered before, but one that every instinct warns against. The traces belong to a colossal squid, your species' larger and more aggressive cousin. This creature makes giant squids look delicate by comparison, shorter in total length, but massively more muscular, with tentacles lined with rotating hooks instead of simple suckers. It's not just hunting for food, it's eliminating competition. Your descendant's success has made it a target. The first encounter happens during what should have been a routine hunt. Your descendant is stalking a school of lanternfish when the water suddenly goes still. Every prey animal in the area disappears in seconds, fleeing from something they can sense, but your descendant cannot yet detect. The silence is absolute. No movement, no bioluminescence, nothing but the crushing weight of the deep ocean. Then the colossal squid emerges from the darkness like a living nightmare. It's maybe twice your descendant's length, but 4 times its mass, built like a biological battering ram. Its eyes are smaller than a giant squid's, but burn with predatory intelligence. Those rotating hooks glint like surgical instruments as it approaches, each one capable of cutting through flesh and bone with equal ease. Your descendant's enhanced reflexes save its life in the first seconds of contact. Instead of freezing in terror, it immediately jets sideways, using its superior speed to avoid the colossal squid's initial strike. Those rotating hooks whistle past its head, missing by inches, but the colossal squid doesn't rely solely on its weapons. It's also incredibly intelligent, capable of learning and adapting during combat. The battle becomes a deadly chess match played at high speed in 3 dimensions. Your descendant uses every advantage inherited from your bloodline: superior agility, enhanced pattern recognition, and the ability to think several moves ahead. But the colossal squid has advantages too: overwhelming strength, experience in these encounters, and weapons that can inflict devastating damage with minimal contact. Your descendant tries to use the terrain to its advantage, darting between rock formations and using the seafloor's irregular surface to break up attack patterns. The colossal squid follows relentlessly, its massive bulk surprisingly maneuverable in the tight spaces. Those hooks score hits repeatedly, leaving deep gouges that stream clouds of blood into the water. But your genetic legacy includes more than just physical advantages. The enhanced problem-solving abilities inherited from your lineage help your descendant recognize something crucial. This colossal squid is hunting alone, which means it's either very confident or very desperate. Confident predators don't usually waste energy on extended chases, which suggests this one might be hungrier than it appears. Your descendant changes tactics, shifting from evasion to a war of attrition. Instead of trying to escape or fight directly, it leads the colossal squid on an extended chase through the most energy-intensive terrain available. Sharp turns around rock formations, rapid depth changes that stress both creatures' physiology, and constant acceleration and deceleration that burns through energy reserves rapidly. The strategy works better than expected. The colossal squid's massive bulk, so advantageous in direct combat, becomes a liability in this endurance contest. It begins to tire, its movements becoming less precise, its attacks easier to predict and avoid. Your descendant, built for efficiency rather than raw power, maintains its energy levels far better. When the colossal squid finally makes a mistake, overextending during an attack and exposing its softer underside, your descendant is ready. Its enhanced reflexes allow it to dart in and land a precise strike with its beak, targeting nerve clusters that will cause maximum disruption. The wound isn't fatal, but it's debilitating enough to end the fight. The colossal squid retreats into the darkness, wounded and frustrated. Your descendant has survived an encounter that would have killed most creatures its size, but victory comes with costs. The wounds from those rotating hooks will take weeks to heal, and the energy expended during the battle has left it weakened and vulnerable. Recovery becomes the next challenge. Your descendant must find safe places to rest while its body repairs the damage, all while maintaining enough hunting activity to prevent starvation. The enhanced healing factors inherited from your bloodline help, but they can't work miracles. Tissue regeneration requires protein, and protein requires successful hunting. The solution comes through another application of inherited intelligence. Instead of trying to maintain its normal hunting patterns while injured, your descendant adapts its strategy to match its current capabilities. It shifts to targeting easier prey, sick fish, wounded creatures, and carrion that doesn't require high-energy pursuit. The food isn't as fresh or nutritious, but it provides the building blocks needed for recovery. During this healing period, your descendant observes the ecosystem around it with new appreciation for its complexity. The colossal squid wasn't just a random threat. It was responding to changes in prey distribution that your descendant's own success had caused. By establishing territory and hunting so effectively, your genetic legacy had disrupted local food webs enough to attract attention from apex predators. This realization triggers another evolutionary leap in thinking. Your descendant begins to understand that success in the deep ocean isn't just about individual hunting prowess. It's about managing ecological relationships. Too much success in one area can attract unwanted attention, while too little means starvation. The optimal strategy involves finding the right balance between dominance and discretion. The weeks of recovery provide time for this new understanding to develop into practical applications. Your descendant starts varying its hunting patterns more deliberately, spreading its impact across larger areas to avoid creating the kind of local disruption that attracts competitors. It also begins paying more attention to the movements of other apex predators, using their behavior as early warning systems for potential threats. When its wounds finally heal, your descendant emerges as a more sophisticated predator than it was before the encounter. The physical advantages inherited from your bloodline remain important, but they're now supplemented by tactical knowledge gained through experience. The combination makes it nearly unstoppable in its size class. This growth in capability coincides with continued physical development. Your descendant is now approaching the size where it can challenge most creatures in its ecosystem, but it's also becoming large enough to attract attention from sperm whales. The eternal predator-prey relationship that defined your own life is beginning to assert itself in the next generation. The first whale song reaches your descendant during a successful hunt in the upper reaches of its territory. The deep, resonant calls carry for miles through the water, announcing the presence of creatures that have been hunting giant squids for millions of years. Your descendant's enhanced hearing, inherited from your bloodline, picks up these sounds earlier than most squids would, providing crucial extra time to prepare. But instead of immediately fleeing, your descendant does something unprecedented. It listens carefully to the whale songs, using its enhanced pattern recognition abilities to decode the information they contain. The calls aren't just random noise. They're a complex communication system that reveals details about the whale's numbers, locations, and hunting intentions. This intelligence gathering provides tactical advantages that no previous generation of giant squids could access. Your descendant learns to predict whale movements, avoid their hunting formations, and even use their activities to locate prey that's been disturbed by their passage. The genetic improvements accumulated over generations are enabling entirely new survival strategies. The first direct encounter with sperm whales comes when your descendant is hunting near a thermal vent system. The whales appear suddenly, their massive forms cutting through the water with surprising grace. There are 3 of them, a hunting pod that's been working together long enough to coordinate their attacks with military precision. Your descendant's response demonstrates how evolution has improved its species' chances against these ancient enemies. Instead of panicking or attempting hopeless flight, it immediately jets toward the most complex terrain available, a field of mineral deposits and rocky outcroppings that will break up the whale's formation and limit their maneuverability. The chase that follows showcases millions of years of evolutionary refinement on both sides. The whales use echolocation to track their target through the maze of obstacles, while your descendant employs every advantage inherited from your bloodline: superior agility, enhanced spatial reasoning, and the ability to predict attack patterns based on acoustic cues. The battle is 3-dimensional chess played at lethal speeds. Your descendant uses the terrain to force the whales into disadvantageous positions, then strikes back when opportunities arise. Its tentacles leave deep scars on whale hide, while their teeth miss by inches repeatedly. The enhanced reflexes and tactical thinking inherited from your genetic line are keeping it alive against impossible odds. But survival isn't the same as victory, and your descendant recognizes that this encounter will eventually end badly if it continues. The whales are persistent and experienced, while its own energy reserves are finite. The solution requires another evolutionary leap in strategic thinking. Instead of trying to win the battle, it needs to make the whales lose interest in fighting it. The strategy involves controlled retreat combined with psychological warfare. Your descendant leads the whales through increasingly difficult terrain while making itself as unappetizing a target as possible. It releases clouds of ink at strategic moments, creating confusion and frustration. It targets the whale's eyes and sensitive areas without committing to extended combat, inflicting annoying injuries that make the hunt more costly than profitable. Most importantly, it demonstrates that catching this particular squid will require more energy than the meal would provide. The whales are intelligent enough to recognize unprofitable hunting situations, and your descendants' enhanced abilities make it exactly the kind of target they'll eventually abandon in favor of easier prey. The strategy works. After what feels like hours of intermittent combat and chase, the whales break off their attack and swim away in search of less challenging targets. Your descendant has survived another encounter that would have been fatal to most of its ancestors, but the victory comes with important lessons about the cost of success. Growth brings greater capabilities, but also greater risks. As your descendant continues developing toward full adult size, it will face increasingly dangerous challenges. The enhanced abilities inherited from your bloodline provide significant advantages, but they're not guarantees of survival. Each encounter tests both genetics and judgment, with failure meaning death and success meaning the chance to face even greater challenges. The deep ocean continues its eternal dance of creation and destruction around your genetic legacy. Currents shift, temperatures fluctuate, and new generations of predators and prey adapt to changing conditions. Your descendant swims through this ancient theater, carrying forward the accumulated wisdom of your bloodline while adding its own innovations to the evolutionary experiment. But the most important test still lies ahead. Your descendant is approaching sexual maturity, the phase of life where individual survival becomes secondary to genetic transmission. The same instincts that drove you to the spawning grounds are beginning to stir in the next generation, preparing them for the final act in their individual stories and the beginning of new chapters in the species' evolutionary journey. The deep ocean watches and waits, ready to test another generation of giant squids against the challenges that have shaped their evolution for millions of years. Your genetic legacy swims toward that appointment with destiny, carrying within its cells the potential for further improvements that might help the species thrive in an ever-changing world. Life as a giant squid continues to be a story of incredible challenges overcome through the slow accumulation of evolutionary advantages. But there's another creature out there facing pressures so extreme that they make the deep ocean's trials seem almost comfortable by comparison. Your descendant has grown larger than you ever were, its enhanced genetics allowing it to reach sizes that push the boundaries of what giant squids can achieve. At nearly 10 feet in length, with tentacles that stretch even further, it dominates its territory with a confidence that comes from never losing a significant battle. The scars from its encounter with the colossal squid have healed into badges of experience, while the lessons learned from evading sperm whales have made it nearly untouchable by most predators. But success in the deep ocean is measured differently than success on land. There's no retirement, no peaceful old age, no gradual decline into comfort. Every day brings new challenges, and the ocean has ways of humbling even its most successful inhabitants. Your descendant is about to learn this lesson in the most profound way possible. The changes start subtly. Hunting becomes less satisfying, even when successful. The constant drive to feed and grow that has motivated every moment of its existence begins to fade, replaced by something else entirely. Your descendant finds itself swimming vast distances without clear purpose, following currents it's never explored before. Its chromatophore displays become more complex, flashing patterns that seem to come from somewhere beyond conscious control. These aren't random changes. They're the beginning of sexual maturity, the final phase of development that every giant squid eventually faces. Your descendant's body is preparing itself for reproduction, the biological imperative that overrides all other considerations. The enhanced genetics inherited from your bloodline are guiding this transformation, ensuring that when the time comes, your genetic legacy will be passed on with maximum efficiency. The territorial behaviors that once seemed so important start to lose their meaning. Other giant squids approach your descendants' hunting grounds without triggering the aggressive responses that would have been automatic just weeks before. Instead of fighting to defend its domain, your descendant watches them with something approaching curiosity. The invisible boundaries that once defined its world are dissolving as new instincts take precedence. Chemical signals in the water become more important than visual cues. Your descendants' enhanced sensory systems, inherited from your bloodline, detect pheromone traces that speak directly to its developing reproductive organs. These molecular messages carry information about the locations of other mature squids, their reproductive status, and the timing of spawning events that happen perhaps once in a lifetime. The journey to the spawning grounds begins without conscious decision. Your descendant simply finds itself swimming in directions it's never traveled before, following deep currents that flow between continents. The enhanced navigation abilities inherited from your genetics help it interpret magnetic fields and chemical gradients that would be meaningless to less capable creatures, guiding it toward gathering points established by millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Other giant squids join the migration as it progresses. Some are larger than your descendant, ancient specimens whose scarred hides tell stories of decades in the deep. Others are younger, first-time participants in this most crucial of biological events. All are driven by the same irresistible compulsion, their individual desires subordinated to the species' need for continuation. The spawning ground reveals itself gradually, a seamount rising from abyssal depths, its peak still thousands of feet below any hint of sunlight. But there's something special about this place that calls to every mature giant squid in the surrounding ocean. The water here carries chemical signatures that trigger responses in reproductive organs, while the geological features provide the specific conditions needed for successful egg development. Your descendant arrives to find dozens of other giant squids already circling the seamount in complex patterns that seem choreographed by evolution itself. The enhanced pattern recognition abilities inherited from your bloodline help it decode the meaning behind these movements, territorial displays, mating signals, and competitive challenges, all woven together in a dance that has been repeated for millions of years. But this isn't a peaceful gathering. Competition for mating rights is fierce, and the battles here make your descendants' previous territorial fights seem like gentle sparring. Males clash with a desperation born of knowing this may be their only chance to pass on their genes. The water around the seamount grows cloudy with ink and blood from countless confrontations, while the strongest individuals claim positions near the peak where the most receptive females gather. Your descendants' enhanced combat abilities, refined through generations of evolutionary improvement, serve it well in these battles. Its superior reflexes help it avoid strikes that would cripple less capable squids, while its tactical intelligence allows it to choose fights it can win and avoid those it cannot. The genetic advantages accumulated over countless generations are being tested in the ultimate arena. The first major challenge comes from a massive male that's clearly been through this process before. Its tentacles are thick as tree trunks, scarred from previous spawning battles, but still formidable. Its chromatophore displays flash, aggressive patterns that leave no doubt about its intentions. This territory belongs to the experienced, and newcomers must prove themselves worthy or be driven away. Your descendant could retreat, find a less contested area on the outskirts of the spawning ground. But the enhanced territorial instincts inherited from your bloodline refuse to accept second-best positions. This is the culmination of everything its genetics have been building toward, and compromise isn't an option. It flashes its own challenge patterns and spreads its tentacles wide, accepting the battle that will determine its reproductive destiny. The fight is unlike anything your descendant has experienced before. This isn't about territory or food. It's about the right to continue its genetic line. Both combatants fight with the ferocity that comes from knowing defeat means evolutionary failure. Tentacles wrap around tentacles in crushing embraces. Beaks snap at exposed flesh, and the water around them churns with the violence of their struggle. Your descendant's superior speed and enhanced reflexes give it initial advantages, allowing it to land strikes while avoiding the worst of its opponent's counterattacks. But the larger male's experience shows in its tactical choices, using its massive bulk to corner your descendant against the seamount's rocky face. For terrifying moments, your genetic legacy faces the same fate as countless other squids whose bloodlines ended in these waters. But the intelligence inherited from your lineage provides the key to victory. Instead of relying solely on strength and speed, your descendant begins to analyze its opponent's patterns, looking for weaknesses that can be exploited. It notices that the larger male favors attacks from specific angles, leaving brief openings that a faster opponent could potentially exploit. The turning point comes when your descendant executes a maneuver that combines inherited physical abilities with learned tactical knowledge. It feints toward one of the larger male's expected attack positions, then reverses direction at the last second to strike from an undefended angle. Its beak finds the soft tissue between its opponent's tentacles, delivering a wound that's painful but not fatal, enough to establish dominance without eliminating a fellow member of the species. The defeated male retreats to the outer edges of the spawning ground, acknowledging your descendant's superior claim to the prime territory. Victory brings access to the most receptive females, but it also brings new responsibilities. Your descendant must now defend its position against other challengers while remaining alert for mating opportunities that may last only minutes. The first female to approach displays the complex color patterns that indicate readiness for reproduction. Your descendants' enhanced pattern recognition systems, inherited from your bloodline, decode the subtle signals that less capable males might miss. This isn't just about physical attraction, it's about genetic compatibility, timing, and the intricate biological processes that ensure successful fertilization. The mating process itself represents the culmination of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Your descendant's body undergoes changes that have been programmed into its genetics since the moment of conception. Specialized organs activate for the first and only time, while hormonal cascades trigger behaviors that override normal self-preservation instincts. The transfer of genetic material happens with surprising gentleness compared to the violence of the territorial battles. Your descendant's modified arm, specially adapted for reproduction, detaches from its body to complete the process. The sensation is indescribable, part completion, part loss, part transformation into something fundamentally different from what it was before. When the mating is complete, your descendant drifts away from the female, its body permanently marked by the experience. The arm it has lost will never regenerate, serving as a visible reminder of its reproductive success. But more than that, something deeper has changed. The driving ambitions that motivated its entire existence are fading, replaced by a strange sense of completion mixed with growing emptiness. The enhanced genetics that made this success possible carry within them the seeds of what comes next. Giant squids are not built for long lives after reproduction. The energy required to reach sexual maturity, compete successfully for mating rights, and transfer genetic material takes everything the body has to give. Your descendant begins to understand what every mature squid eventually learns. Reproduction is a one-way journey. Other males who have completed the mating process drift through the spawning grounds like shadows of their former selves. Some bear the same missing arm that marks your descendant as reproductively successful. Others show different signs of the toll that reproduction has taken on their bodies. None seem interested in the battles and feeding activities that once defined their existence. The realization brings not despair, but a kind of peace that transcends individual survival. Your descendants' genes are now part of something larger, eggs developing in the protective embrace of deep currents, carrying forward genetic improvements refined over countless generations. The enhanced abilities that allowed it to survive and thrive are now distributed among potentially hundreds of offspring, each one a lottery ticket in evolution's game of chance. Your descendant leaves the spawning grounds behind, swimming slowly toward territories it once dominated with such authority. But the journey feels different now. Its movements lack the purposeful efficiency that once characterized every action. The currents that once carried it swiftly through its domain now seem to work against it, requiring effort that becomes harder to sustain with each passing day. The wounds from its spawning battles heal more slowly than they once would have. Its appetite diminishes even when food is abundant, and successful hunts no longer provide the satisfaction they once brought. These aren't signs of disease or injury. They're the natural progression of a life cycle that burns bright and brief, packing incredible intensity into a span measured in years rather than decades. Your descendants' enhanced eyesight, once sharp enough to spot prey from impossible distances, begins to dim slightly. Its tentacles, which could once crush any creature they grasped, show the first signs of decreased coordination. Even its chromatophores, those remarkable color-changing cells that provided camouflage and communication throughout its life, start to lose some of their vibrancy. But there's beauty in this decline, a poetic justice in the way evolution has structured giant squid existence. The same genetic programs that drove incredible growth and development are now orchestrating a graceful transition from individual life to species continuation. Your descendant is becoming part of something larger than itself, its atoms destined to cycle through the ecosystem that shaped its existence. The deep ocean begins to feel different as your descendants' strength wanes. Areas that once seemed full of opportunities now appear vast and empty. Creatures that once fled from its approach now watch with growing boldness, sensing the change in a predator that no longer projects the same aura of invincibility. A group of deep-sea sharks begins following your descendant, maintaining respectful distances, but clearly waiting for something. These ancient predators have seen this process countless times before, the gradual weakening of apex predators whose reproductive success has drained their life force. They're not being cruel, just practical, following the same survival instincts that have kept their species alive for hundreds of millions of years. Your descendant doesn't fear these followers. Fear requires energy it no longer possesses in abundance. And besides, their presence serves as confirmation that its role in the ecosystem is changing from predator to provider. Soon, its body will feed creatures that might otherwise starve, continuing the cycle of nutrients and energy that keeps the deep ocean functioning. The first sign of system failure comes during what should have been a routine hunt. Your descendant spots a school of lanternfish and begins its approach, but the calculated strikes that once never missed now fall short of their targets. Its depth perception isn't quite what it was, and its tentacle coordination shows subtle signs of degradation. The fish escape, leaving your descendant floating in empty water with the strange realization that its hunting career may be over. This isn't a dramatic collapse, but rather a gradual fade, like a powerful engine slowly running out of fuel. Each day brings slightly reduced capabilities, marginally decreased performance, incrementally diminished responses. Your descendant adapts by lowering its expectations, targeting easier prey and accepting smaller victories than it once would have demanded. But adaptation has limits, and eventually even the most modest hunting attempts become too difficult to complete successfully. Your descendant finds itself drifting with the currents more often, conserving energy for basic life functions rather than the complex behaviors that once defined its existence. The territorial boundaries it once defended so fiercely become meaningless as other predators move in to claim areas it can no longer protect. The sharks following at a distance grow bolder, closing the gap as they sense weakening resistance. Your descendant notices their approach, but lacks the energy to care significantly. Its enhanced intelligence, inherited from your bloodline, understands what's happening with crystal clarity, but that understanding brings acceptance rather than panic. In its final conscious moments, your descendant experiences something remarkable. Its failing chromatophores fire one last time in patterns unlike anything it has ever displayed. Random neural activity creating displays of color and light that serve no evolutionary purpose except perhaps beauty. Waves of purple, blue, and silver ripple across its massive form, creating a light show that illuminates the darkness around it. The display fades as neural activity ceases, and your genetic legacy begins its final transformation from apex predator to ecosystem component. The sharks move in respectfully, beginning the process that will distribute its atoms throughout the food web. Nothing is wasted in the deep ocean. Your descendant's carbon will become part of other creatures. Its nitrogen will feed microscopic organisms, and its phosphorus will strengthen shells and bones throughout the ecosystem. But the most important part of your descendant, its genetic information, lives on in the eggs developing in distant waters. Those eggs carry forward every improvement accumulated over millions of years of evolution, plus whatever new advantages random mutation has provided. Some will fail to develop properly, but others will hatch into larvae carrying genetic combinations that might prove superior to anything that came before. The ocean continues its ancient rhythms, indifferent to individual tragedies, but somehow nurturing the processes that create life's endless variety. Your bloodline swims on in new forms, carrying forward the accumulated wisdom of countless generations while remaining open to whatever innovations evolution might provide. Somewhere in the darkness, a new generation of giant squids is taking shape, each one a unique experiment in survival and adaptation. Your genetic legacy lives on in their cells, tested by your success and refined by your descendants' achievements. The story continues, as it has for millions of years, as it will for millions more, each generation building on the last while facing challenges that never stop evolving. Life as a giant squid remains a brief but intense experience, a concentrated burst of growth, conflict, and reproduction compressed into a few years of existence. But there's another creature out there whose existence makes even the deep ocean's challenges seem manageable by comparison. Trust me, their story will make you grateful for the relatively straightforward life of an apex predator in the abyss. The eggs your descendant helped create drift in the deep currents, each one a sealed capsule containing the potential for another iteration of evolutionary improvement. Inside these microscopic worlds, development proceeds according to patterns refined over millions of years, but with subtle variations that might produce the next breakthrough in giant squid evolution. Some eggs carry genetic combinations that will enhance hunting efficiency even further. Others contain mutations that might improve survival rates during the vulnerable larval stage. A few harbor changes that could revolutionize how giant squids interact with their environment, process information, or defend themselves against predators. But evolution is ultimately about testing, not planning. These genetic experiments will face the same brutal examination that every generation encounters: the relentless pressure of an environment that kills the inadequate and rewards only the most successful. Your bloodline's contribution to this process represents millions of years of accumulated improvements. But even the best genetics provide no guarantees in a world where survival depends on the complex interaction of inheritance, skill, and luck. The deep ocean waits patiently for these new experiments to hatch, ready to test another generation against challenges that have shaped life in the abyss since complex organisms first evolved. Your story as an individual giant squid has ended, but your genetic legacy continues swimming toward whatever future evolution has in store for your remarkable species. In the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, where pressure would destroy most living things and cold would freeze the blood of surface dwellers, the next chapter of your bloodline's story is about to begin. Each egg carries within it the potential to become something unprecedented, a creature that might push the boundaries of what giant squids can achieve even further than your descendant managed. The cycle continues, ancient and relentless, beautiful in its simplicity and terrifying in its demands. This is how species evolve, how life adapts to impossible conditions, how the remarkable becomes routine through the slow accumulation of countless small improvements tested against the ultimate arbiter of evolutionary success, survival itself. The spawning grounds empty as the ancient ritual concludes. Exhausted giants drift away in all directions, their bodies forever changed by reproduction. Some will survive for weeks, others for days, but none will see another spawning season. This is the price evolution demands for creating the next generation. Total commitment, no second chances, no possibility of trying again if something goes wrong. Your descendants' offspring develop in darkness, so complete it seems solid. Each egg is a closed system, carrying everything needed to build a future predator from scratch. But development isn't guaranteed. Temperature fluctuations can halt the process entirely. Chemical changes in the water can poison embryos before they're strong enough to resist. Even minor vibrations can damage developing organs beyond repair. The first casualties happen within days of spawning. Eggs deposited in areas with insufficient current flow suffocate as oxygen levels drop. Others land in chemical dead zones where nothing can survive. Some are discovered by deep-sea scavengers that specialize in finding and consuming developing embryos. The mathematics are brutal. Out of hundreds of eggs your descendant helped create, perhaps a dozen will survive to hatching. But survival at this stage isn't random. The eggs that persist are those placed in optimal locations by females whose experience guided better choices. They develop in areas where currents provide steady oxygenation, where temperatures remain stable, where predators are less likely to discover them. Your mate's final act was choosing these locations, using instincts refined by millions of years of reproductive success. Inside the surviving eggs, construction proceeds with mechanical precision. Nervous systems wire themselves according to blueprints encoded in DNA. Muscle fibers align in patterns that will eventually generate crushing force. Eyes develop specialized cells capable of detecting single photons in absolute darkness. Each embryo is becoming a biological machine, optimized for survival in the harshest environment on Earth. The genetic combinations your descendant contributed are expressing themselves in subtle but crucial ways. Some embryos develop enhanced reflexes that will help them avoid predators. Others show improved efficiency in oxygen processing, allowing them to dive deeper and stay down longer. A few display unusual chromatophore patterns that might provide superior camouflage or communication abilities. 3 months after spawning, the first eggs begin to hatch. The process starts with tiny cracks in the protective shells, hairline fractures that spread as developing squids push against their prisons. Each embryo must break free at exactly the right moment. Too early means incomplete development. Too late means exhausting energy reserves before gaining freedom. Your genetic legacy emerges into a world that immediately tries to kill it. The newly hatched larva is transparent as glass, barely visible even to creatures actively hunting such prey. Its first instinct is pure survival. Find food, avoid predators, grow as quickly as possible. There's no time for learning, no period of protected development. From the moment of hatching, it's kill or be killed. The larva's first prey is a microscopic copepod drifting nearby. Its hunting instincts are already fully formed, hardwired into neural pathways that required no training to activate. Tiny tentacles shoot forward with precision that would be impressive in an adult squid. The copepod disappears in seconds, converted into the energy needed for rapid growth. This feeding frenzy will continue for months. The larva must double in size repeatedly, transforming from invisible prey into a formidable predator through sheer determination and genetic programming. Every meal brings it closer to safety, but also makes it visible to larger creatures that ignored it when it was microscopic. The enhanced abilities inherited from your bloodline begin showing themselves as the larva grows. Its reflexes are measurably faster than its siblings, allowing it to dodge attacks that would be fatal to slower individuals. Its pattern recognition systems process information more efficiently, helping it identify threats and opportunities with split-second timing. But genetics alone aren't enough. The larva must learn through experience, developing hunting techniques through trial and error. Its first attempt at catching a small fish fails spectacularly. The prey escapes easily, leaving the larva frustrated and still hungry. But failure teaches lessons that success cannot, and each mistake makes the next attempt more likely to succeed. A jellyfish drifts into the larva's territory, its translucent bell pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Under normal circumstances, this would be a dangerous encounter. Jellyfish tentacles carry venom that can paralyze or kill much larger creatures. But your genetic legacy includes innovations that most squids lack, including enhanced resistance to certain toxins. The larva approaches cautiously, testing the jellyfish's defenses with quick darting movements. When no immediate retaliation occurs, it moves closer, using its superior speed to stay ahead of the jellyfish's trailing tentacles. A precise strike with its beak severs the jellyfish's nerve center, ending the threat and providing a substantial meal. This success demonstrates something crucial about your bloodline's evolution. Previous generations of giant squids avoided jellyfish entirely, recognizing them as too dangerous to hunt. But accumulated genetic improvements have created new possibilities, expanding the range of prey that can be safely targeted. Your larva is literally eating creatures its ancestors feared. Growth accelerates as hunting becomes more sophisticated. The larva learns to use currents to its advantage, positioning itself where prey will naturally drift into striking range. It develops patience, waiting motionless for perfect opportunities rather than expending energy on marginal attacks. Most importantly, it begins to understand the three-dimensional nature of its environment, thinking in terms of depth and angles rather than simple pursuit. But success attracts attention from predators that specialize in hunting juvenile squids. A deep-sea fish with needle-sharp teeth begins stalking the larva, drawn by vibrations from its increasingly successful hunts. The fish is maybe 10 times larger and infinitely more experienced in these waters. Under normal circumstances, this would be a death sentence. Your genetic legacy responds with a survival strategy that demonstrates the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of evolution. Instead of fleeing in panic, the larva stops moving entirely, allowing its chromatophores to match the surrounding water so perfectly that it becomes nearly invisible. Then it slowly positions itself to present the smallest possible profile to its stalker. The predator's eyes sweep past repeatedly, unable to lock onto a target that's hiding in plain sight. Its primitive brain can't process the idea that prey might actively camouflage itself rather than simply trying to outrun danger. After several frustrating minutes, it gives up and swims away, leaving your descendant free to continue growing. This encounter marks a turning point in the larva's development. It has survived its first encounter with a major predator through intelligence rather than speed or strength. The enhanced cognitive abilities inherited from your bloodline are beginning to show their true value, providing options that pure physical prowess cannot match. The deep ocean has witnessed this cycle countless times before, but every iteration brings something new, some small improvement that might tip the balance toward survival. Your genetic legacy carries forward the accumulated wisdom of millions of years, tested in the harshest laboratory on Earth and refined by the simple but brutal mathematics of evolution. Survive long enough to reproduce or disappear forever. From the moment you broke free from your egg as a transparent speck to your descendants' final display of bioluminescence in the crushing depths, your bloodline has played its part in an experiment that began billions of years ago and will continue long after the last human draws breath. You've lived, fought, and died in a world that most creatures couldn't survive for seconds, yet somehow your species has not just endured, but thrived. Life as a giant squid was never meant to be easy or long, but it was always meant to be extraordinary. Here you can find the next video. Click on it. Until then, see you soon.